Akan terminology, Akan basic grammar, Akan oral literature, and Akan language and the media. That's why I'm always at Peace FM trying to look at how we can connect the Akan language and use it for the media. These researchers have given me insights into how we can use language to create national cohesion and peaceful coexistence. So permit me to show to you some of my works. I have here Akan terminology. I've developed terms that can be used in the teaching of Akan without resorting to English. So you can use Akan to teach phonology, phonetics, stylistic, literature, syntax, semantics. I've also here Akan Kasapa-Kasahuam, which is basic grammar to be used from primary school through JSS to SS and to the university. And I have with me here Akan Kasadwini. This is as a result of the terminology. So you have Akan there and you have Kasadwini. Kasadwini is made up of two words. Kasa, that is language, and Adwini is design. So here we are talking about verbal art, and it's nothing but Akan literature. But of course it is about Akan oral literature. Then I have with me here a small boy who has his hand by the mouth and telling all of us here to at least sometimes shut up, because we talk too much and most of the things we say are insults. So if you have the advice coming not from an adult but coming from a small boy with his cloth, then it's telling us to be careful. Mr. Chairman, given the limited time available to me, this lecture will not attempt to explain all the broad areas I have researched. Rather, I will concentrate on a limited number of narrower and more specific themes. These are linguistic routines, and by linguistic routines I'm referring to the use of words for things we do daily, everyday encounter. And they include greetings, request, thanksgiving, apology, and the practice of invectives, which we have been doing day in, day out, and of course it's not good for us as a country. By concentrating on these themes, I intend to demonstrate their potential for community and nation building, insofar as they relate to the basic social value of politeness. Mr. Chairman, the themes I intend to explore in this lecture will seem ordinary to most people here, and it will be reasonable for them to wonder how an academic should spend his academic lifetime of 2 decades or more trying to study basic linguistic routines and practices. But wait a minute, you may soon agree with me and even encourage me to do more research in these areas. Now, since the value of politeness is central to the themes I will be exploring this evening, Mr. Chairman, permit me to begin with a working definition of politeness that is borrowed from ID 1989. And he defines politeness as follows. Linguistic politeness is the language usage associated with smooth communication. So if you are polite in language usage, it presupposes that you're going to have a smooth communication, irrespective of the person you are communicating with. But that can only be realized first through the speaker's use of intentional strategies to allow his or her message to be received favorably. So anytime you're speaking to some people, you have all the register, you have all the words and expressions, but you have to wait and then pick some strategies that will make your language favorable and acceptable to the people who are listening to you. But what do we see in this country? The second aspect of the definition is language used through the speaker's choice of expressions to conform to the expected and prescribed norms of speech appropriate to the contextual usage in individual speech communities. Mr. Chairman, what I'm saying here is that every language is on its own and is specific. So if you are speaking within a speech community, what you have to do is to pick the words to conform to the culture of the people, to conform to the belief of the people, to conform to the mindset of the people. So you don't pick words and just tell us that, oh, these ones can be said in America. Of course, we are not in America, we are in Ghana. So the choice of words must conform to the socio-cultural norms of the society in which you are communicating. Now that I've given you a brief definition of politeness, let me start from my first topic that I'm going to treat. Mr. Chairman, my first topic is on greetings. The act of greeting may seem a very simple communicative gesture, but it is far from that. Greetings are performed in relation to the socio-cultural norms where the performative verb, depending on the language that you speak, I greet you, mechiao, the performative verb triggers a sequence of interactional performances and psychosocial effects. So if you are greeting somebody, it's not just the handshake. It goes beyond that. There are certain things that will have to impinge some meanings into your heart and then into your head and into your mind. Each social group has its own set of rules about who should be greeted, who should greet first, what is an appropriate greeting, and the form it should take. These days, what do we see? You see young men and they want you, the old man, to start greeting. But the traditional greeting doesn't go that way. A younger person moves towards where the elder person is and greets him. So every society will have to have set rules. Greeting rituals may, of course, be verbal or non-verbal. The one who greets to begin any social interaction is communicatively competent and is at least implicitly aware of the socio-cultural contract view of politeness. Anytime we are conversing or we meet in an interaction, is a social contract between the speaker and then the addressee. The person presents himself or herself as a cultivated and cultural person and is therefore highly regarded. As you know, there are countless social needs and situations that require greetings to address. Thus, to give a few examples, we use greetings to console when somebody loses a beloved friend or relative. You have to console him. You go there and you start with the greetings. Greetings are used to encourage people to do something. They are used to congratulate people. And since yesterday, I've got more than 100 or 200 of those greetings. We use them to sympathize. We use them to establish or affirm a friendship, to repair a broken relationship. If people are at loggerheads and they are not speaking to each other for about 2 weeks, then we are expecting that when they meet, they'll be going towards two opposite directions. But if for God's own sake, somebody moves to where the other friend is and say, it gives a sign of relief that at least there's a repair of the broken relationship. We use it to appease, to bind or harmonize people. Greetings provide a way of showing that a relationship is still what it is at the termination of the previous co-participation. Mr. Chairman, regular greetings indicate the intimacy and the concern for another. We greet both strangers and familiar people as a matter of lingual, cultural courtesy and etiquette. In Akan culture, one of the few situations in which one is excused from greeting is while attending nature's call. The Akan taboo against greeting while attending nature's call can be explained from two angles. First and foremost, the one who is attending nature's call is holding something that is messy and more polluting. So therefore, why not go and dump it there? And then you become so clean that now you can greet. The other explanation is that our greeting system has no time limit or time bound. It's not a mere good morning, and go away. It can turn into a whole discourse. The person wants to find about your farm, about your preacher, how he preached the last Sunday. So it's advisable, since you can't calculate the amount of time that the greetings will take, it's better to go dump it and then come back and get ample time. Then if the greetings is going to take 1 hour, you can be in for it. So even though we cherish people who greet, it becomes impolite to greet if you are on your way to the toilet. And now you may not observe this. In the villages, the toilets are at the outskirts of the town. And when people are going there, the type of materials they are going to use can easily identify them that they are going to the place. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot list all the positive values of greetings, but the few examples I've given should suffice to indicate the social cost, both actual and potential, when we neglect or fail to greet. Neglecting or failing or refusing to greet a member of a society who expects to greet may suggest an acrimonious and cold relationship. Mr. Chairman, greetings are of various types. They can be simple or complex, formal or informal. When they are simple, it could be between equals, people who stay in the same house and see themselves very often. Simple and formal or simple and informal greetings may occur between unequals. For example, between age. If there's age differential or status differential, then the greetings should be formal. Permit me to quote one greeting that I have here. There's this guy called Buodu, and he meets Auntie Brago and says, "Me paucho mami majo," and the woman says, "Yes, son." Apomu te say, "Apomu ye," and the woman says, "Akwaba," and the guy says, "Ya ena." Many people who know me will testify that when they ask "Apom te say," I normally will say "Apom dienkeye," and they will ask, "What is wrong with the other side?" Probably I'm talking of money or something like that. That will be a casual greeting between people who share common things. But if you are greeting somebody who is older than you or occupies a higher status than you are, then formality should be the crucial thing. When we are greeting people who are at higher stage, we need to preface the greeting with apologetic expressions like "me pacho," because greeting can be a face threat. Sometimes you are so busy that you want to concentrate on what you are doing, and somebody says "ma joy." The time to spend in responding to the "majo" takes some time of your busy schedule, but the society is expecting you to respond. So greetings can be a face threat. Greetings can be complex, and let's listen to this one. Emo machi on yemu etesen eye na nso e boko na wabusuafo we omo ho ye oyire no ma boko wo fa no ana oyare no ne ho ye na adwuma mu eye kakra manager na amanya no no matese onye na ye befa ne sa. This is part of the greetings. So it becomes so complex. Formal greetings can also occur in institutionally based settings. In such situations, protocols are strictly followed. Otherwise, the consequences can be serious for the person who greets. Ceremonial greetings at palaces, our shrines, and other formal public gatherings are specific examples of formal greetings, where diplomacy becomes an important part of the protocol of the greeting. So if I should go to any palace, Manshia or Chehen's palace, I can't go and tell them that, "Oh please, I'm a professor of linguistics, so I've come to say good morning. So Nana, good morning." I can't do that. I have to go and humble myself. There we are not talking about whether you are a professor of linguistics or what. We are talking of formality at the palace. If I should go to Antoine Yama's shrine or Akonodi, I have to humble myself because it's an institutionalized place where protocol is very important. Formal greetings, therefore, can affirm equality or enact social inequalities. So the way people greet can tell you whether they are testifying or they are bringing forth what is supposed to be equal status or unequal status. One of the basic communicative forms of greetings that will depict politeness is the use of address and honorific terms. These forms may indicate the person's power, social status, achievement, gender, kinship. Some of these are Openima Chio, Togwe, Amaga, Nana, Nene, and all these. So you can't greet a person of a higher rank without prefacing it with an address title. Mr. Chairman, let me now draw our attention to greetings in modern Akan society and then greetings in Ghana. The youth of today do not usually use the Ghanaian traditional forms of greetings. Most people in the cities use the English forms of greetings. Everybody is good morning. Whether you are the chief or you're the director, good morning. I call that unison greetings. On campus here, some of my students come to my office and they'll say, good morning. And I'll intentionally say, good morning, sir. And they don't recognize the difference. They think that, oh, I'm saying good morning, sir, so it's good. Ladies come, they say good morning, and I'll do this and say good morning, madam, and they'll be laughing. I expect them to see why I'm doing that, but they don't recognize. So it is time that the youth of today begin to study the traditional ways of greetings. These days, most of the churches have got their own greetings, and they will put the traditional type of greetings aside. I'm coming from the Methodist background. The youth are here, so they will say we, and the other people will say one, and that is the greeting, that's the end. Or if they belong to the men's fellowship, they will say for Christ, and they will say we live, and that is the end. Mr. Chairman, if the youth continue to neglect our traditional forms of greetings, we will sooner than later lose the community building values of greetings and politeness. Even though language is dynamic, we should insist that our youth are well informed in the traditional values of greetings. Mr. Chairman, we now move to the next level of our interaction this evening, and that is the topic of request. Ladies and gentlemen, requesting for things and services is part of social nature of man, and man may be expected to request for things anytime as part of his life. Individuals request for things. Groups do. Nations do. We go out for money. We go out to solicit for some equipment. Requests are preamble acts intended to prepare the way for the performance of upcoming events, either in favor of the requester, the requestee, or a third party. So anytime we are requesting something, we are either requesting it for ourselves, or I'm requesting you to do something either for me or for yourself. But I can also request you to do something for my wife or for my mother. So request is either on behalf of the requester, or for the requestee, or on behalf of a third party. So the components of every request is made up of three. The first is the requester, the person doing the speaking. And then the second component is the requestee, the person who is receiving the request. In between them is what we call the mand, M-A-N-D. And that refers to the persuasive language that is used to request. So to recap, every request will have a requester, and then there is a requestee. What binds them together is demand, or the language of request. A request has its constitutive rule, a situation that the requester wants the requestee to do something. Requests may be simple or complex, direct or indirect. And any of these forms may depend on the social relationship between the requester and the requestee. If the social relationship is so close, it's very intimate, some of the rules could be relaxed. The structure of request, that is, you have the requester and you have the requestee. In between them is the request. But the request has also got its own structure. It has three components. And these are address terms, is the first one. The second one is the head act, the request itself. And the final one is what we call adjuncts to the request. So three keys: the address terms, the head itself, and adjuncts to the head. Mr. Chair, permit me to explain briefly these concepts. The address terms are preamble, things that are able to elevate the status of the requestee. So if you're going to request something and you say, give me 10 Ghana cedis, you won't get. And if the person is Nana, and say, Nana, wada Roma, say, Hawan, ka mame, sidi dubina memfa mame brewiye. For that you're going to get, because you've elevated the status of the person by using the honorific terms. Some of the honorific terms are Dasebre, Togwe, Ohima. In the case of Dasebre, it means the magnanimous one, the one whom if you want to start thanking, you get tired, because he will be continuing to give you something. And every morning you go to his house and say, oh, me dasenen ra. Another day you go and say, oh, me dasenen and sanin and say, oh boy, you get tired, because the things will be flowing. The moment you say Dasebra me pacho oh mami bibi, he can't refuse it, because you've already accorded him a status. So if you have something like this, Misrawa wadaroma, ochna umame suma Kumasi. With all apologies, could I send you to Kumasi tomorrow? But if you say Misrawa wadaroma, literally by your grace, umame suma Kumasi, it's quite different from ochna masuma Kumasi. The person may not go. But Misrawa wadaroma umame suma. It is so pragmatic that the person may not refuse. And if we are requesting for things, we also bring about terms that show intimacy between us. So instead of using the full name of the person, you can say Ko, or Akos, or Abi, or Fifi. And these days people may even use the English form, or sister, or aunt. And some will say bra. And my typical Kokwasi people, some of them may be tempted to say blah. Blah mpaja means somau. We tend to do all this so as to bring about a very cohesive relationship between you and the person, so that the request can be fulfilled. The head act is the message itself. And that is why you are putting up the request. After the request, the head, there's adjuncts to the head act. And the adjuncts are some explanations that are related to the head, so that it will pave the way for the person to give you what you need. The first adjunct is what we call pre-request checking availability. You want to check whether what you are requesting for is available. But checking doesn't mean you need to go to the person's house and start checking whether he has the items you are requesting for. No, you can use language to do that. Let's listen to this. Me pacho uwontos anka me peba kumbia tomenkwem. The person knows that you can't use one. It's not possible. But you try to minimize the imposition. Because if you say, me pacho who want toast, and the person says, oh mama kentemam fan kwayem kway. That's not possible. So you try to minimize the cost. Mame ba kumbin kwayem kway. And the person will, from out of the person's own discretion, will say, oh, bakon de emso, mamima unsiabi. That's fine. So what I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is that anytime we are requesting, there are traditional ways by which we can use to make the request very favorable. And when you are requesting, you also give a pre-commitment and tell the person that you may not, if it's an item, you are telling that I'll take proper care of this. Let's look at this. Nana me pacho yensuo no ma. So that's the ground. Yen honsuo no e ma. Na wadaroma. Samo de no ba. Anka me mebu bokiti ba kumbi mame. Mehwe se emofra no nsa nsuo no. That's a commitment. So nana wadaroma. That is address terms. Our taps are not flowing. That's the grounder. Because if our taps are flowing, there's no need to send my children there. So that grounder is specified. And the next thing is a minimizer. How? One bucket? And then he said, I'll make sure that they won't waste the water. If you put all these together, it will be difficult for the nana to say we don't have water. Apart from this pre-commitment and those, there's a nice one that I like. We call that the sweetener. You have to use some sweet words to make the request compliable. And I have an excerpt here. There's this young lady who wants some furniture and goes to the carpenter and says, Matisa uni mkonya yepa. Won sano so bo won sano ofe afenso yese we nkonwa won kyan ho papa, because most of these carpenters, they will collect the money and spend days, weeks, months, but he's trying to say, oh matese woni nkonwa ye pa won sano ofe won sano so bo afe won kyan ho so mesra wa obetim de na wotwe aye nkonwa mame. So by saying this, he has cornered the carpenter. One, I learned you are very famous. Two, you are very skillful. Three, when you charge the money and you start the money, you don't delay. Can you use 1 week to make some nice furniture for me? Even if this carpenter has been delaying other people's work, this one he has to be careful. Mr. Chair, anytime we request for some things, we need a response from the one from whom we are requesting. The response could be of two kinds. It's either a compliance or a rejection. But in this part of the world, it's very difficult for people to say a blunt no to a request, even when they know that they can't fulfill. And these are some of the things they use as a response to request. You want to get something from somebody and he says, let's wait for some time. Whereas he knows that he can't fulfill the request. He won't say, that will be a face. Another one, they will say, I'll think about it. Why not say, no, I don't have? They can also say, oh, they can also say, oh, if God permits, it will be okay.